Recording
every
in
case
progress.
is dealt with on its own merits. That said, the overall concern is, in my view, our litigation strategy. And of course, the people who deal with these matters on a routine basis are best placed to share with the committee the complexion and nuances of the caseload that they assist with. I shall therefore allow, at an appropriate time, the officials earmarked to present the status quo on litigation and attendant costs in this area of our work to do so. At this point, Chairperson, do allow me to hand over to the National Commissioner and the management team to make the presentation to the committee. I thank you.
Thank you, Dilizindaba. Can they come in?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'll hand over to CDC Katenga.
Good afternoon, Chair and members, and Deputy Minister and colleagues at large. The presentations, I believe, were circulated, so I wouldn't want to go through in detail, but just to give the highlights of their performance and to indicate on the areas where we fell short, and also maybe just to provide some level of comfort with regards to progress on implementation on certain matters from the period 31 March up until now. So maybe if I could start on slide 5, where, as DM has indicated, out of a total of 52 targets, we have achieved 37 and not achieved 15. And the one indicator which is measures the performance with regards to our audit, which has not yet been finalized, is the one that we indicate is measured annually and is still outstanding. So based on those numbers, the performance is the performance level is sitting at 71%. Maybe just to indicate that of the 15 indicators not achieved, 12 of them are under Program 1, which keep it there. As I say, 12 of the targets that are not achieved are under Program 1, and the majority, and I think 1 is under security and 2 under Program 5. Just to indicate up front that I think the effect of the hard lockdown and the reduction of restriction levels from level 5 to level 4 affected performance in Q1 and Q2. So you'll find that a lot of the reasons for underachievement will be related to the impact of the COVID restrictions, which had an impact on traveling, staff rotation, and also the implication of infections on the staff components. So, but notwithstanding that, we can move on to slide 9. Slide 9 just gives a depiction of the difference in performance between the previous year, 2019-20, and the current year, 2020-21. If we look at the column for 2020-21, you will see that for all 4 quarters, performance was consistent at 89%. However, when we come to 2020-21, for the first quarter, we were at 55%, increasing to 61% in the second quarter, increasing to 69% in the third quarter, and ending up on 71% in Q4. And that is due to mainly the reasons that I articulated on the previous slide. If we move on to slide 11, here, Chairperson and members, I'll be going through the performance indicators, 15 performance indicators which the department did not achieve. So with regards to sub-program management, which is under Program 1, there are 2 indicators there: the number of ethics, fraud prevention, and anti-corruption awareness workshops conducted, and the percentage of investigations completed for reported allegations. As I'd indicated, the issues around the impact of level 5, level 2, level 5 down to level 3. However, going forward, we see that there has been an improvement with investigations conducted during Q1 of the current financial year, as the department was able to make up time following the easing of the COVID lockdown restrictions. With regards to awareness workshops, there's also been, if you pardon me, with regards to the awareness workshops, we have indicated that these will resume in Q2. However, due to the rotation of staff, there is limited capacity at the management areas, which makes it difficult to have adequate attendance since the current resources are overstretched at regions and do not have resources to attend virtual workshops. However, it is something that we'll have to work within. Under Subprogram Human Resources, the approved integrated human resource strategy, the indication there and the circumstances there were that the consultation were conducted and the document was finalized, however, was not signed off as at 31 March, which is the period that we're reporting for. However, we can indicate that post 31 March, there was additional work that needed to be done to clean up the strategy. And it is envisaged that this strategy will be before the executive for approval, and during the month of September, that is, after which training and awareness will commence around the strategy. With regards to the shift pattern, Labour rejected this shift pattern proposed by the department because the system does not make provision for Sunday overtime payments. However, there's envisaged further engagements going on, but I think it must be noted that the funding of any shift pattern would represent an increase in the compensation budget requirements, which would mean that National Treasury would have to be engaged in order for us to be able to succeed in that area. If we move on to slide 12, the percentage compliance to employment equity plan, including all positions. The targets for SMS males and females, as well as persons with disabilities, were not met. And this was due to a moratorium on the filling of posts. And basically looking at how we would be able to, going forward, that is, in order to achieve this target, we're looking at filling posts in line with the natural attrition within the department. But key to that is that we'll be focusing on filling posts at the coalface and focusing on the designated groups. Under Subprogram Finance, the approved Integrated Finance and SCM strategy, that strategy was also not approved as at the 31st of March due to the requirement for reprioritization of work. However, as work resumed, there was progress, and there was also a requirement to incorporate elements of the self-sustainability strategy, which the members will know was approved at the end of the 2020-21 financial year. So it is envisaged that that strategy will be approved within the month of September. On the percentage of tenders above 30 million awarded to designated groups, the process of advertising, there was only the one tender in the 2021 financial year, and the process of advertising and adjudicating overlapped into the current financial year, and as such will only be finalized in this current financial year. But for this current financial year, we have advertised 2 bids which would fall within this category. And the view to it is that the evaluations of all these bids would be in line with the procurement plan of the department in order to ensure that we achieve this target in the 2021-22 financial year. If we move on to slide 13, that's the number of sites where the mesh network and integrated security systems are installed, number of sites where sensing and surveillance systems are installed, number of sites where inmate communication systems are installed, were all not achieved due to the fact that the solution that was explored initially was not meeting the requirements of the department, and as such procurement could not be finalized. However, alternative solutions have since been found, and also we're looking at partnerships with CSIR and Centec to ensure that these solutions are implemented in the current financial year. If I can move to slide 14. This is under Subprogram Security Operations under Program 2. Percentage of inmates who escape from correctional facilities. The major contributor there for the underperformance was the mass escape at the Malmesbury facility, which contributed to 58% of the escapes. However, we must indicate that 100% of all of those who escaped were recaptured in the 24-hour period, but we are obliged to report on the incident nonetheless. The key reason being non-compliance with security procedures, and in addressing that, standard operating procedures have been revised to also be aligned to the requirements within the current COVID environment to ensure that we reduce or actually prevent infections and to give that assurance to the security officials as to how they must conduct such work. And lastly, if I go to slide 15, this is under Program 5, Subprogram Community Reintegrations. These performance indicators talk to the restorative justice process, where victims and offenders, parolees, and probationers must participate. Key issue there again, level 5 down to level 3. We had to suspend all activities because of the nature in which they are conducted. However, that activity resumed, and in the current financial year, we're looking at alternative methods, such as video conferencing and any other, the reduction of numbers in any given intervention. So that should also see an increase in the performance. I think, Chairperson, with regards to a performance report, those are the areas that I wanted to lift, and I would request the CFO to come in at this juncture.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy Minister, National Commissioner, members of the committee. I will be taking you through the highlights of the financial performance for the year 2020-21. On slide 63, this is the overall expenditure. We spent in terms of the revised budget, we had 25.5 billion, whereas we spent just over 25 billion, resulting in underspending of 569.7 million. In terms of the percentage spending, we spent 97.77% of the revised budget. Just to indicate that of the underspending, there were certain procurement that was done during the last quarter, where for security equipment and uniform, which was not yet received at the time. So we requested National Treasury to roll over the funds amounting to 102 million. That funding has since been approved in August by the National Treasury to be utilized in the current financial year. If we move over to slide 64, these are just certain changes that were made through the adjustment budget. There were environments made of 374 million from compensation of employees to households for purposes of funding post-retirement benefits in the main for the payment of medical, post-retirement medical benefits. We also made two virements to support JICs of 1.4 million to fund IT services for the JICs. There was also a virement of 2.5 million to fund the procurement of vehicles for JICs as well. Then there's also the self-financing amounting to 623,000 for offender gratuity, where we for every revenue that we generate through utilizing of hiring out of offender labor, we also claw back during the adjustment budget. The other second adjustment appropriation was the budgetary cut of 308 million from subprogram facilities, which was part of funding the SAA, South African Airways Business Rescue Plan, as announced by the Minister of Finance. If we move over to slide 65, the programs after final adjustment for the year, which underspent was administration and incarceration. The biggest underspending was on administration, where the program had a revised budget of 5.1 billion. The actual spending was 4.7 billion, where only just under 91% of that budget was spent, resulting in 478 million underspending. On incarceration and corrections, the program had an allocation of 15 billion, whereas it spent 14.9 billion, resulting in 99.39% of the spending of that allocated budget, and at a rent value level, it's just under 92 million. If we move on to, we can move on to slide 67 just to indicate the key items in the programs where there was underspending. We will see that under the program admin, the major contributing factors for underspending was transfers and subsidies, as well as payment of capital. From underspending in terms from transfers and subsidies, the reasons are on slide 69, where the actual spending was 136 million against the revised budget of 426 million, resulting in 290 million underspending, mainly on machinery and equipment due to delays in the procurement of IT equipment. On transfers and subsidies, the actual spending was 705 million, which is 79%, against the revised budget of 892 million, resulting in 187 million underspending as a result of lower than anticipated leave gratuities due to service termination. On slide 70, that is program 2, which is the last program that of the two which are spent. The main contributing factor there was on goods and services, as well as transfers and subsidies. The major contributor, though, was for payment of capital assets. This program also houses subprogram facilities. Due to the hard lockdown levels in the beginning of 2020-21 financial year, there was delays in terms of procurement from a public works point of view for projects, as well as the hard lockdown where construction work of all the projects was also suspended. From an economic classification point of view, that will be on slide 78. This is the overall picture from an economic classification. I just wanted to highlight that during the year, for the year under review, we had an allocation of on compensation of 17.2 billion, which was revised due to the cuts as well. The actual expenditure there was 17.3 billion, which is above the allocation. The spending is 100%, 0.8%, resulting in overspending by just 137.5 million rand. And the reason behind that overspending on COE was mainly the fact that we had to, the work cut, as indicated through the special adjustment budget, as well as the funding of the SAA Business Rescue Plan. And on our side, we had to employ additional medical staff. We also had to pay special danger allowances during the year for COVID purposes. Chairperson, from an overview of the expenditure, I will close there and refer back to the National Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if I can go over to the other presentation, Chair, and then deal with both presentations with your direction, please.
Which presentation are you referring to?
Litigation.
Okay, just hold. Let me just deal with this first.
Thank you, Chair.
Back to that. Thank you very much. Honorable members, there's the fourth quarter expenditure presentation. I want us to just deal with this and we'll go back to others. So I now want to come to you for your questions, comments, or any clarities that you want to deal with in relation to this presentation that has just been made. So let me invite you, if any of you, I see Honorable Velma's hand is up. Honorable Velma. And Honorable Werner Horn following.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the department for the presentation. Thank you very much for doing it so speedily, even though it was very difficult with the level 5, 4, and 3. Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. I am especially interested in the COVID-19 situation. Currently, I would like to know the percentage, if you are aware of this, the percentage of staff who have been vaccinated to assist in reaching the goal of reducing COVID infections, as well as the percentage of inmates including the 18-year-old and above. That is the one thing I would like to know. If you are not able to give the statistics right now, I don't mind if you submit them in writing. Then with regard to the escapes, now the big percentage is from my constituency area where I'm placed in Malmesbury. So it's a high percentage from there. I would like to know right now, since then, up until now, what measures have been put into place to avoid this from happening again? Because from my understanding, if I am correct, it happened, the escapes happened outside of the prison during transit to, it wasn't at the prison itself, it was in transit. Maybe I'm wrong, just let me know. But what measures have been put in place exactly? Because we can't blame COVID forever, obviously. So I would just like to know what measures have been put in place. And then the disability targets not met. And in future, especially among the youth that you did place, is there a percentage of, well, I understand there's no percentage achieved, but what measures will you put in place to make sure that more disabled people are employed? And then just to get to my notes here, Chair. Okay, it says some underspending, and you say it was mostly in the administration program because of COVID as well. But I'm interested in the IT. it wasn't met before, and between the end of the financial year up until now, the IT requirements, has it been covered or has it not yet been done? And also you mentioned with regard to the restorative justice and assisting the victims, you said you will allow social auxiliary workers to assist. Now, I want to know what and how will the social auxiliary workers help with? I'm also interested, the reason why I'm asking is because during my visit to a town called Darling, to the police station, one of the councillors complained, received a complaint from the community that when the inmates are sent on parole or due to be released, the victims and the community is not aware, which means I'm not sure whether in Darling, for example, the victim empowerment or the restorative justice is working smoothly. I'm not sure. But now the community or the victims normally have to, they normally confront SAPS asking why they were not informed of the release of the inmates. Okay. And then SAPS obviously themselves says it has nothing to do with them. It is out of their hands. Now, between DCS and your programs, I want to know, why does things like this happen in, for example, Darling, where the victims and the community, the consultation wasn't done with them? If I do have more questions, but I'm going to look for it. Hopefully there'll be a second round. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Valma. Can I immediately, Commissioner and your team, get those specific responses?
Thank you, Chair. We were just unmuted. I'm just going to ask the CDC HR to respond to the questions that was posed on HR, and I'll then request the CSO, Mr. Mtetwa, to respond to the issues of escapes. Gito will respond to the IT question, and community corrections will deal with the last question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you and good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee and the National Commissioner. Can I ask to be the last one to respond? I just want to put the figures correctly, and I'll be the last one saying.
Who's next then, Commissioner?
Mr. Mtetwa, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair, Honorable Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee and National Commissioner COC, protocol observed. Regarding the...
Mr. Mtetwa. Is that Mr. Mtetwa?
That's correct, Chair.
Speaking, okay. You're speaking Trumbambo.
That is correct. We didn't want to confuse the systems because we are in one area. I've opened this on my laptop and he's using the cell phone.
That's fine. Okay.
Thank you so much. Regarding the measures that were put in place to address the reoccurrence of this, which is the escape in Mamasbury, one need to indicate, Chair, that one escape is one escape too many. What we did, investigation was completed and currently undertaking those measures and decisions that were taken there. Furthermore, we said, let's not just focus on Mamasbury, but addressing the issue of escapes in its totality, as I've already indicated, because our mandate is based on exactly that, ensuring that we secure those that are, given to DCS to care. And certainly we also sensitize all regions to ensure that any escape, in fact, any security breach, we need to reflect on the causes and by extension also the modus operandi, so that we can put necessary measures and realign our activities accordingly. As it has already been said, all our procedures in terms of what has happened, because we can't say one plan fits all. We had to ensure that we do that. And we know for sure that in Mamasbury, among the other things that we observed during the investigation is the fact that the structure was very old. So we had to try and fix some of the structural defects that were there, because the center was very old during those years. So we had to fix those. So there are the activities that has been undertaken in that regard. And of course, part of our measures to reduce or to avoid a scenario like this in the future is to enforce the applications or implementation of our standard operating procedures, which we have since received them after the approval of the National Commissioner on the 11th of March 2020. So we do have the procedures that are aligned with the COVID reality that we have, because we realized that during that time when the escape happened, the procedures were not reflecting much on the COVID-19. So we realized that our officials, by extension, they were reluctant in doing or conducting proper searches because they were still scared of the COVID. So until such time that these policies were addressing such as to how are they going to be searching and providing, of course, the issues of the PPEs in terms of that. And the screening, of course, of officials and inmates is one of those, so that there wouldn't be any fear from the officials for contracting this coronavirus. And the rating of correctional facilities, also that has been taken into account, so that as and when we know here is our hotspot area, this is the kind of measures that we need to put in place to ensure that offenders do not escape. And we intensify, among others, the issue of unannounced searches, the night visits, encouraging, of course, the regional commissioners and head of centers to ensure that we intensify that, the night visits. And having also the foot patrols inclusive, depending on the area where the facility is, and rotation of inmates, those that are working in teams, and ensure that we profile them accordingly. And perhaps lastly, Chair, we also started with our process of putting in place or compiling an integrated security strategy, which is about to be approved, which is coming up with a model of security that we are using, which is a defensive approach that is going to be assisting us to be able to be able to prevent, detect, and respond appropriately based on that particular scenario. So this is embedded in all our policies. I'm talking about the gang combating strategy that is also inclusive of this strategy that the department is going to utilize going forward. So we are of the view that having that in mind and utilizing all these plans will be able to curb the escapes. I have to indicate that since that time when the escape happened, the escape rate has dropped drastically. Of course, as I said before, one escape is one too many. We wouldn't like to see the escapes going forward. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and National Commissioner, members and colleagues. Thank you for the questions. In Q1, we met all our targets except one, of which is the number of sites where mesh network and integrated security are installed. And in Q1, this is still due to the limited budget that we have, but currently we are reprioritizing our efforts and ensuring that we are implementing this, because this will also assist us in monitoring our environment from all over the country. So it's the only target that we did not meet during the first quarter. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, who's following?
Chairperson, it will be CDC Community Correction, and then we'll have CDC Incarceration and Corrections, and then CDC HR. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That order.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, members, Honorable Deputy Minister, and our National Commissioner. From my side, the question is on with regards to the Restorative Justice Program, with regard to the social auxiliary workers. So with regards to the social auxiliary workers, their main responsibility is to assist us in tracing the victims of crime in order to ensure that those victims will participate in our victim offender dialogue and our victim offender mediation. So the social auxiliary workers will also prepare our victims to participate in those victim offender mediation and victim offender processes. So with regards to participation, with regards to parole boards, our victims need to participate in the parole board processes. So what is expected is that with each and every offender, before they can be released from parole, they are expected to participate in our parole board sittings. Hence the role of our social auxiliary workers in assisting us to trace and prepare those victims in attending our parole board. The other issue is that we are working in partnership with several stakeholders within communities and also with SAPs in terms of assisting us in tracing those victims. So we do work together with SAPs in terms of assisting us with tracing the victims of offenders. I mean the victims of crime. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Waiting for the next person to come in.
CDC Incarceration.
Should I proceed?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And
Yes, don't push each other. Yes, go ahead, incarceration, and then the one who was fixing numbers, you've got extra minutes to fix the numbers, one correct numbers.
thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Apologies, there was an interjection. I am responding to two questions that were asked. My name is Mahodi Samuel Tobachala. I'm the CDC Incarceration and Corrections. The first question that I'm responding to is the question on the number of inmates that we have vaccinated. The statistics that we have are as of 1st of September, 2021. Our unlocked total on the day was 138,772. And by that day, we had vaccinated 82,248 inmates. That gives us 59.26% in terms of the percentage. The next question is on restorative justice with regard to parole processes. In terms of the requirements for a parole process to be completed and for consideration of an inmate to be finalized, the victim engagement processes has to happen. So what we can say for now is that we will get the details on Darling as the area that has been identified, but we can give the honorable members assurance that there is no inmate that gets to be considered and the process gets finalized without restorative justice processes having taken place, even in instances where it is difficult for us to trace the victims. We actually work with SAPS to make sure that we are able to track the victims. In parole hearings that are conducted by boards, we also ensure that we invite SAPS so they can be part of observing the processes and also help us to link up with the communities where the crime took place for us to be able to also inform the community and prepare for an eventuality whereby an inmate or an offender ends up being put on parole or probation. What I will then request through the National Commissioner is that we submit a written report with regards to cases for the identified area, Darling, as indicated. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. National Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you. Let's get the person with numbers.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I just was removing jigs. It's not part of the statistics that I must be reflecting. That is the fixing that I was doing. Let me greet Deputy Honorable Minister and the National Commissioner through you. I would like to respond on the question of percentage. The number of healthcare workers vaccinated per region. I will just give the total full vaccination for the health workers, and then I'll move to other categories. It's 72.5%, with an outstanding of 297. Number of officials over 60 vaccinated per region. I also have a breakdown in terms of each region total. To date, 61.4% number of vaccinated above 60. And I also need to highlight in terms of the following. There were also total numbers of officials who received a vaccination in terms of the related psychology support. We are sitting at a total of about 417, all those employees that were given those support. But I also needed to indicate that the total number of all the officials who has to date have received the full vaccination, it's 6,179, which is 15%, 99%. Let me also just highlight that there are few challenges with regards to officially voluntary bringing back the cards in terms of us capturing. We are still working with the Department of Health that are actually assisting us to have the data that is confirming the total full numbers in terms of those who have not brought the cards in terms of us capturing the number. But there are many who have actually been vaccinated. This is the official who have received first vaccination dose by the 15th of August and the second vaccination dose by the 30th of September, which is, we are still in terms of the second dose. Many of our officials are indicating that it's a secret for them to be vaccinated. Some is challenges to religious beliefs and traditional beliefs. But however, The Department of Health is currently assisting us to obtain the necessary information, as many of our officials were vaccinated in our Department of Health sites, and those who have done privately, most of them have already submitted. We were guided in terms of our HR Directive 8 of 2021, which has an implementation program working together with the Department of Health in terms of making sure that our officials are currently vaccinated. I think in terms of percentage, I will leave at that. We do have a full presentation which has already been prepared in terms of the progress on the vaccination as at end of July. I just needed to highlight in terms of the submission, we are ready for a full presentation in terms of all the challenges experienced, in terms of the implementation per each region and the breakdown of each region. And on the issues of disability, I would like to indicate that we had few challenges in terms of 2019-2020 as ending 2021 due to the budget cuts. The department has experienced challenges of filling of vacancies. So the realization of our employment equity target, specifically in relation to the disability, was not meant as a result that there was a moratorium for us to be filling the vacancies. We could not do so. We have, however, in terms of the measures that are in place, have reprioritized the filling of vacancies, especially also with the disability. For a case like in KZN, where we are also finalizing that, we would just want to indicate that we have reprioritized the budget in terms of us meeting the employment equity target, specifically in relation to the disability. However, we're still facing challenge in terms of the employee budget cuts, in terms of the compensation. We depend on natural attrition in order for us to be filling vacancies. We are working with National Treasury in terms of us submitting the revised HRBP tool that will able maybe to receive some additional allocation that will able to assist us to address the issues that has to do with the call phase in terms of filling of vacancies in order for us to meet our targets. I thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. The next person is are these all the responses? Okay.
Chairperson, that's all the responses, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm now going to recognize Honorable Horn to engage with the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to everyone. Chairperson, firstly, I want to address the old issue of the integrated inmate management system. So it's coming from the 2015-16 year. I don't need to repeat the sad history of it with Treasury saying this is not an award that should be proceeded with, but nonetheless the department proceeded with it. Let me turn to the latest developments, or let me rather say the lack of developments. It's the same reasons that's been given as previously for the fact that targets have not been met. And strangely enough, if one consider this is for the fourth quarter, the reason is once again the fact that traveling between regions were not permitted, which is of course not true. We all know that the lockdown regulations restricted travel only for the period more or less April and May, which was at the beginning of the financial year. So the department must firstly, I think, explain to us, Chair, why this can now be the reason for underperformance in quarter 4. Previously, and even as far back as 10 months ago, when we dealt with the budget review process, we were informed then that the contract of the service provider has now run out, and the department has now taken ownership of this product project, and therefore there will be now progress, dedicated officials capable of developing it and rolling it out would be appointed. So the question is, has there been made appointments? If not, why not? Then we were informed that yes, it is so that some of the sites previously identified for rollout is not suitable for rollout, so there would be a reprioritization. Has that been done? We see today in the presentation of the, I want to say, the strange explanation of correct solutions not being available. Now, I really, Chair, with respect, I cannot understand that term. So we must have, I want to say, practical examples of what is meant by this. And yes, maybe to come full circle and circle back to what National Treasury in 2015-16 advised, if all of this is just coded language for the fact that most of the sites where we have correctional facilities are simply not suitable for this type of technologically advanced system, then at what stage is the department going to say we will not throw money down this black hole any longer, but we will work towards workable solutions? Because once again, Chair, this is also at the heart of the repeat finding of the Auditor General and the bad audit outcomes, the mere fact that the department cannot, in a satisfactory manner, report on who is locked down from one night to the next. So that's in respect of the integrated inmate management system. Then, Chair, in respect of the, I want to say the mesh project, if one can call it that, I failed to understand how the department can come and say, yes, we've not met targets here, but that's because of budgetary constraints. I mean, the annual performance plan, we were assured, marries the budget in a perfect way. So that begs for a further explanation. Must we then see this as an admission from the department now that its annual performance plan and the targets was rather a wish list? Then in terms of the capital or the build program, it is a worrying thing that despite us being informed previously that 3 specific build projects would be embarked upon in this financial year, namely Burgersdorp, Parys, and Lichtenburg, that this presentation is absolutely silent on this. So I want to ask what progress, if any, has been made with those new facilities, or must we as this committee or Parliament just simply accept that the department and Public Works and whoever, DTI will just continue in the not so proud tradition of just dragging out these projects over far longer than necessary, and we must just fork out the money, the extra money, from one year to the next. And then lastly, Chair, in respect of the financial report, at some stage we were afforded the interesting development that we were joined whenever financial reports would serve by the chairperson of the audit committee to also brief us on the way in which the audit committee has assisted the operations of the finance division of departments. So I don't know if there is any reason why the chair of the audit committee has not joined us today. We know from previous experiences that it's not the highlight necessarily of the day of the chair of the audit committee, but could we be afforded reasons as to why she's not with us this time around? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Horn. Can I, Commissioner, with your team, get responses to the issues tabled by Honorable Horn?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I'll get Gito to respond first. I hope you can leave, and then CFO. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. On the matter of teams, as we reported previously that we will have extra resources. So the resources that we had were the internal trainers from the college who assisted us to do training of the officials on site for the rollout of the system. So we trained about 20 internal officials to assist us with the rollout, where you can see that there's a progress was made when we started the year in 2021. We had only 11 sites that were using IMS. Currently, as I speak, we have 35 sites. So that assistance from the officials has made us to progress with internal resources. It is true that with the development, we have not progressed because we don't have qualified developers or adequate developers to develop the system. We need to have developers to develop the system so that we can complete the development of the remaining modules. But with the modules that have been completed, we are progressing, we are rolling out as a department without any assistance from external parties or departments. With the matter of the site, as we get to each and every site, we do a site assessment to say what technology or equipment, basically computers, cameras, biometric devices are required to site, and we do procure from head office, understanding that the region or the management area did not budget for this equipment, but because the system is automating a lot of processes, we find out that there's a shortage, but we bring the equipment into the site and leave those equipment at a specific center. In terms of the correct solution, the correct solution is not related to it. The correct solution was the offender telephone system. So with the offender telephone system, because we know that a lot of our sites did not have telephone system throughout the years, and during that period of time, because of the limitation of visits, we have seen that it's a requirement that we deploy offender telephone system. So the old, similar old sticky boxes. But when we went out on an RFQ, we have found out that the telecom does not provide those anymore, nor repair them. And the solution that was provided from the major internet solution providers were ordinary phones for officers. So we could not procure such because we knew that within that period of time, the offenders will destroy those equipment. Hence, we said that the correct solution was not found. We partnered with CSIR and designed a solution as well as devices that are adequate and robust enough to be deployed into our environment. So currently, we're in that process of finalizing, then rolling out such solutions. Thank you, Chairperson.
Chairperson, thank you for the question, Honorable Hon. With respect to the facilities, we have not stopped the projects, but the impact of the cuts will slow down planned projects. For example, Parade is already in construction and is progressing very well. So the cuts will not stop those that are already in construction. But those that we were completing design and so forth, they may be delayed to go into construction because of the budgetary cuts. Lichtenberg is still at a design phase and we are proceeding with the designs. but it will be delayed in terms of construction when we reprioritize in terms of the allocated budget. The other ones that are still in construction is the Mtonjeni Youth Center as well as Brandfley Maximum. Those are going to be proceeding. Thank you, Chair.
I think those cover the questions, Chair. We're just trying to establish if the chair of the audit committee is online.
Okay. Before I proceed, I'm going to check with Honorable Horn and Velma if you've got any follow-ups before we get to the next point.
Chairperson, if I may,
yes.
Yeah, I've noted the response to the effect that the department wants to proceed with the development of the integrated inmate management system, but they don't have the specialists. So I don't see how you do proceed. What is then the next step? From the answer, I gather that ultimately the additional appointments have not happened apart from a few, I want to say, appointments that could assist with some other work related to the project, but the core of the project is technological development. And I think we as a committee must ask the serious question as to why we must continue to appropriate money if on the department's own version, the experts that must make this project work is not in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Horn. Honorable Velma, so that they can respond to both follow-ups, if you have any. Any follow-ups, Honorable Velma?
Sorry, Chair. Honorable Horn's questions covered me. Thank you so much, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Response to that follow-up?
Thank you, Chairperson. Maybe we need to look at what was the objective of the integrated inmate management system. The objective was to have a centralized system that is similar in all our facilities to ensure that when we process offenders, we get one coherent data. So with the current systems that we have, it's highly decentralized. It lacks a lot of rules, if I can put it that way. Rules like it's not mandatory to input certain data of offenders in the old system. So with what we have with IMS, that has been achieved in a way that we are implementing and ensuring that we have the correct data from the site where it is implemented, as well as where the information from the justice system can be inputted. So it's not a waste of resources or a waste of funding. The system is working. The system just needs to be rolled out. The enhancement is not the enhancement, the development are the development of the outstanding modules. So at this point of time, we have not even had extra funding into the system or had funding. We are currently waiting for us to have professionals, as correctly said. We do have limited professionals, and with the limited professionals that we have, it is not going to be feasible that they develop the system at the speed that we require, because those same professionals are supposed to support and maintain the existing system. So we only have around 4 professionals in the department to develop and maintain and support the existing system. Hence, we said that we need to have developers. technical developers to do the work, and after the technical developers have developed, we go and implement and roll out the remaining modules of the integrated inmate management system. Our plan is actually even to start with the community corrections, because with the community corrections, we have noted that we don't need, the officials are on the road majority of the time. The officials require an app so that when they go and do the monitoring, they're able to have data instantly and also sending the data to the central system to be updated. And there's no need for them to continuously go to an office to update the system. So we will start, we do have, and if I put it, the architecture around that, but we need developers to further develop their solution. And we're looking at options of partnering with either still with IJS, with CSRR, especially to build the confidence of our existing officials so that they are able to maintain and support the system throughout the life cycle of the system. Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to take us into the evening and I don't want to get this to be a dialogue, but can the department tell us what is then the outstanding modules? And can they correct me if I'm wrong in making the statement to say that ultimately some of the outstanding modules is at the core of what the Auditor General finds every year, and that is that the department is simply not able to deal with the management of inmates and specifically the reporting of lockup numbers on a daily basis. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner and your team.
Okay. The outstanding modules are the modules within incarcerations and corrections, the health and the pharmacy modules, and the community corrections modules. Those are the 4 outstanding modules that need to be developed, then rolled out. And in the previous audit, the findings was more on matters of bed spaces. And on that matter of bed space, we have developed a solution internally with internal resources and made sure that we correct the bed spaces. And the audit finding is not only concentrated on inmate information, it cuts across the department. So we are able to address some of the audit findings. The other audit findings under IT have high dependency on procurement of various solutions, of which some of we do depend on CETA to procure the solutions. And we've been delayed by CETA in terms of procurement to procure some of the solutions. And some they have managed to do so as late as last Tuesday, where they have awarded the tender for certain equipment, but there are still others that are outstanding. And we are working with CETA to ensure that all the outstanding solutions that need to be procured by the department, they are procured by CETA for the department. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Commissioner and the CFO, can you just indicate in line with this issue of audit, since the last time we dealt with this, has there been any improvement on the action plans on these audit outcomes?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, just to indicate that as much as the audit opinion is not yet out, we had 2 qualifications in the previous financial year. The first one was on the program performance information for on bed spaces. As Gito has indicated, we worked very hard and developed a new system. We went and did verification of all centers to determine the extent of our bed spaces, and those were updated and reported accordingly. Indications that qualification will be resolved. There is no material misstatement currently. On the irregular expenditure, we don't have capacity, so we relied on consultants to assist us. They've done the full population and updated. We are waiting for the Auditor General to give us the opinion. But all indications are that there will be some improvement in that regard. Thank you.
Okay. Any final take on this before we proceed, Commissioner, to other items? From your side?
Chair, on this, no, I can just maybe give some input at the end. I think we can move on to the second presentation, Chair, if you allow.
Okay. All right. The Deputy Minister will also allow you perhaps to comment at the end, if you don't mind. Honorable members, can we then proceed to for the presentation of the next items? Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Katani, the heads of the legal services in the department will do this presentation. You may just have to remove your mask.
Thank you, Chairperson. Members, Honorable Leader, National Commissioner, Protocol observed. On my presentation, I'm not going to deal with the purpose. It is clear and the DM has already indicated. I'll go straight to the problem statement where it's indicated that since the advent of democracy and ushering of the new constitution, South Africa has developed into a litigious society because people are asserting their rights, especially against the state. We are faced with a large number of civil claims and motion applications, moreover on placement on parole. This is usually due to the backlog in consideration of inmates, and the department is opposing such claims. I will deal a little bit with that as I proceed. Can I go to slide number 5, which indicate the statistics on the civil claims against the department. I will just highlight the second column where we said contingent liability. At the moment, the contingent liability against the department stands at 280 million with 1,085 cases. And the provisions, let me just touch on the issue of provisions because there is a -16 there, which is under value of additional claims. This -16 is a provision that we have noted that it was previously included in the opening balance, but however, we discovered that it has been previously recorded, so it was erroneously recorded, so it's recorded as a prior period error, hence it's a -16. The payables, those cases where judgment has been granted against the department, however, no quantum has been determined, stand at 6 cases with 4 million in value of rent. The payables, sorry, I just talked to the payables. Can I move to the next slide, which indicates the highest number of claims and amounts per category that we received? Assault, which tops the list in terms of numbers, rape, unlawful detention, damages, and medical conditions. So for that's not medical cost, it's medical condition. My apologies for that. It's damages that are related to the medical condition, and finally the breach of contract. The next slide refers to all those claims that are finalized as indicated there, those in favor and those against the department. In favor of the department is predominantly the letters of demand that are prescribed. We record them as in favor because it's less from our contingent liability register. 2 claims there that have been finalized as well against the department. The next slide deals with the contingent assets claims that the department has instituted against third parties. We only have two. The reason is because most of the debts are opened against those cases where the officials are indebted to the department and finance is managing that. And only when they are not succeeding, then they will refer it to legal services to further handling. The motion application that we received from March 2018, actually for that period between March and July, there was a lot of motion applications that we received, 569, as indicated in the next slide, in various regions. These motion applications were specifically lodged by offenders sentenced to life imprisonment who wants to be considered for placement on parole. These motions we are opposing to the Office of the State Attorney, and the strategy is to consolidate these motion applications to avoid staggered or separate individualized motions, because by so doing, it will attract more legal costs. As we consolidate, it becomes better, and as a result, after consolidation, we also approached the DJP in various provinces to conduct a judicial case management of these cases. And it proves to be working. We hope these cases to be finalized. The next slide just stipulates the number of motion applications received in various regions from various management areas. Slide number 11 deals with the categories of motions that we have recorded in our register. We have categorized them in terms of various categories so that it's easy to manage. Just to take you through in the middle of this presentation, there's a category of labor. Just want to expatiate a little bit there. Labor is all cases that involve where people are claiming payment for their pension payout. Some is for their unpaid leave days, some is for pay progression. So we just consolidated into labor to avoid a huge register. Under the category others, it's just a lot of applications there. Some of them include where inmates want that they be allowed to practice their religious beliefs in a specific center. They allege that they are not being given an opportunity. Some is where they request access to amenities like books, laptops, or medication. Other motions would be about the sanitizers. The other one that is a release there next to placement of parole. Some of these motions, because the inmates draft for themselves, they are not clear what actually they want. They will just say, I want to be released. So hence, we could not put it under parole because he is not saying he wants parole, but he says he just wants to be released. The others are clear review of arbitration award and transfer of inmates from one region or one management area to the other. I will deal with slide 13, which deals with challenges with litigation in the Department of Correctional Services, and I will also deal with the proposed solutions together with practically how the department is addressing these challenges. Delay in consideration, lack of capacity, poor quality of profiles, incorrect details, victim affidavits, all those things, you find that they are not available, and as a result, people would issue motion applications challenging the department. Delay in releasing offenders, or poor or lack of coordinated system in the management of this process of release. The proposed challenges in the next slide is indicated that we're saying we need to capacitate the CMC offices and the professionals to ensure that there's timeous consideration of the offenders' profiles. The National Council of Correctional Services to prioritize matters in court and to seek more frequently. Here we are engaging with them, especially with, in this large number of motion applications that we have received. It assists us because it sort of reduces amount of costs accumulated. The sooner they consider the inmates, the better, the quicker the cases are finalized and no further legal cost is attracted. Filling of all vacant posts, consolidation of similar cases for uniformity, as I have indicated there, we consolidate. And another proposed solution which came from the Office of the Solicitor General to address the challenges in litigation, which clearly shows that the challenges in litigation is not only a concept in correctional services, but it is a national challenge, and the Solicitor General Office is in the process of developing a strategy in addressing this challenge. The next slide deals specifically with the challenges as identified in the document that we received from the Office of the Solicitor General. Just to mention a few, those challenges: lack of monitoring system, overwork of the Office of the State Attorney. It is really a huge challenge. Inconsistency in litigation procedures in different offices, poor coordination, lack of oversight from the Office of the State Attorney in those cases that they are handling. The proposed solutions from the Solicitor General's Office or from the State Attorneys as well is the development of a litigation strategy that is going to address these challenges. Amongst others is the proposed solution is the provision of state litigation management framework, which is going to consist of various stakeholders, especially from different state departments, so that we are able to address these challenges. Implementation of cost and fee management framework, formulation of directives and standards that resonates with the ethos of legal sector code. The next slide deals with the legal cost that the department has expanded or reimbursed to the Department of Justice, who are handling the cases on behalf of the department. This is the legal cost that was paid so far. It's 15 million, with a budget where we received a budget of 42 million. The available budget is 26 million. We also experienced challenges with these invoices when we process the reimbursement. We found that since this reimbursement is done manually, it's prone to human errors. This is due to unavailability of an automated integrated system to manage this system. In most cases, we found that in the process of reimbursement, some documents are missing, which will delay the process of reimbursement and which later leads to those invoices queried and referred back to the Department of Justice to rectify, and this leads to a delay. The proposal to these challenges to the legal cost is the development of an automated integrated system to manage the payment of these invoices from various service providers. As we are part of the litigation strategy developed by the Office of Solicitor General to address these challenges, we believe that we might be able to resolve some of these challenges. In mitigation of this, before I go there, Chairperson, through you, let me just make mention of the fact that, as I said, I'm going to indicate how the department is dealing with these challenges. The department is engaging in this to ensure that it addresses with the aim to ensure that the number of cases that are received are reduced and thereby reducing the high legal costs. What the department is doing, specific training areas where gaps were identified, training is provided. For an example, on the calculation of the sentence, profile register, tracking and improving accuracy in reporting of offenders due to consideration by parole boards before they meet their minimum detention period. The department is also looking at to manage and prevent the backlog at CMC offices, the backlog in consideration of offenders. What they do, there is monthly reporting from regions and analysis of backlog per relevant sentence group, and reasons for such backlog is being conducted in order to improve the submissions of the profiles of correctional services, profiles to the Correctional Services Parole Board. With regards to the lack of capacity, as I've indicated, the department had a total of 3,318 vacancies as at the end of June 2021. And in recognition of continued compensation of employees in the current financial year and in the entire medium-term expenditure framework, the National Commissioner has approved the advertisement of the critical and essential post on 28 June 2021. All these posts that are critical and essential have been advertised by relevant regions. When it comes to the poor quality of profiles, there is formal and operational training and work sessions that are conducted annually and on an ongoing basis, and as and when new members are appointed. There's also quality assurance teams that is established at local levels as well as in the directorate pre-release resettlement to quality assure the profiles of offenders as they are received. There's also an issue of unavailability of sentence remarks when these profiles are being considered. What is happening is a work sessions for CMCs and parole boards since 2019 to date have been attended by both the CMCs and Correctional Services Parole Boards, where the policies and procedures pertaining to placement and release on offenders are addressed in detail. And on a medium term to long term, an automation of case management processes, including an integrated inmate information management system to enable interface with the Criminal Justice Integrated Information System or platforms. We say organizational and functional structures designed that support mandates or core business of the DCS, security, rehabilitation, and custodial functions. All posts of critical, essential have been advertised as I've indicated. In addition to the appointment of 2,000 learners, which was done as part of youth employment and addressing filling of funded and vacant posts. This will contribute in mitigating challenges that we are facing in the department. Okay. Can I go and finalize my presentation? Slide number 20. From the correctional services side, how we are also mitigating this litigation cost. We say only those cases that we have a bona fide defense, we continue to oppose. However, where we do not have a bona fide offense, we advise to settle the matter as soon as possible so that we avoid attraction of further legal costs. And we say the lessons learned also assist us and provide guidance to avoid similar litigation in future. We also advise management to take action against officials who are found to have caused litigation against the state, especially where they have forfeited their state cover. Thank you, Chair. That's the end of the presentation.
Commissioner?
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you. It's fine. Can I now invite comments and questions from the members? Honorable Self, followed by Honorable Velma Nivo-Druggen, as well as Honorable Horn.
Thank you, Chair, very much for the opportunity. It seemed to me from this presentation that routinely matters are opposed when they come to court. And I'd just like to know what sort of process is followed before it's decided to oppose or defend a particular action. Is there, for example, some sort of investigation that takes place and before the legal services are involved? Secondly, much mention here is made of a strategy developed by the Solicitor General. A few elements of the Solicitor General's strategy have been outlined, but I'd like to know more detail about it. What does it involve in the longer term for legal cases? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Self. Can we respond to that immediately so that we clear about the responses?
Okay, thank you, Chair. May I ask that the Solicitor General maybe could be in a better position to assist us with the second question, the details of the strategy. And the first question, what we do when we receive this litigation, we initiate the investigation. We request where there is an investigation already to be provided so that we can assess whether this case is capable of being settled rather than following the legal route. Thank you.
Did you ask for Solicitor General? Do you have a Solicitor General in the meeting?
Chair, we don't have the Solicitor General, but as I said, this is a strategy or a document that is developed by the Solicitor General. We are there to make inputs, so I wouldn't like to talk for the Solicitor General. Thank you.
Okay, so who's going to respond to that question? You're not in a position to respond to the members' clarity on this?
Chair, can you provide a written response to that one? May we please provide a written response?
Oh, you're requesting a written response? Oh, okay. All right. That's fine. We'll await that. So it shouldn't take a week to get that. All right. Honorable Nivot.
Thank you, Chairperson. Because this is new to me, I don't think it's come to the committee during my time. So please be patient with me as I have a number of questions. On slide 6, it says civil claims against DCS. Sorry, cases. I would like to know, because I see assault is there, 379. I'd like to know why so many assault cases. This 379, is it officials assaulting inmates? Is that my understanding? And then the rapes, are those rapes by officials? Because, I mean, we're trying to reduce gender-based violence that we're seeing, and then now to see this number of rapes is quite concerning. And then unlawful detention, 259. Why so many? You know, if people are already detained, what does unlawful detention mean? Medical damages, can you list what are the damages? Medical, you know, physical, mental, emotional, what kind of damages are those? And then on slide 8, you don't need to show the presentations. I've forgotten that question, so I'll move forward to slide 9. $569 motions by lifers. Who arbitrates or who deliberates with them, and why are there so many motions by lifers? And I mean, for a lot of them, I would like to know who assists them. You know, if we have so many social auxiliary workers, can they be like mediators between the inmates and the department, or the inmate and the board, for example? Are the social auxiliary workers able to fulfill that mediation role? And then on slide 11, the list on the breakdown on slide 11, I don't want to extend my question time, but I would like to find out, you know, for everything that is listed, why are there motions there? And then slide 13, it's I'm quite concerned about slide 13, the delay in consideration. Why is there a delay? Does the department not have the capacity? Does the department not have any staff, or not enough staff? What is the reason for that? And then poor quality of profiles, old professional reports, cut and paste. What does that mean? Is there somebody not doing the administrative work correctly, not keeping administrative records correctly? And why is that? So that's why I'm asking if the social auxiliary workers, or for example, a law student, an intern, for example, can they do that work? And the delay in releasing offenders, poor or lack of coordinating system. Why does that not exist? Poor management / implementation of policies. I would assume that the department is skilled at its work and knows its work very well. So why should such a thing happen? So slide 14, the same questions. If the social auxiliary workers can facilitate, if it's something that can be done, I do believe it's something that can be done under the supervision of a social worker. And slide 15, but again, like you already said, the Solicitor General is not present, and there are questions directed to the state attorneys in relation to the state attorney's office. I don't know if we can get written responses from both departments in that regard. And then the last slide, slide 18, the costs. I mean, the question is, so I had to repeat the question. So I'd like to know, for each of the items listed there, can you give reasons for each item? What is it? Why does it happen? On slide 18, can the department explain further for each item listed on slide 18? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner? Quick responses to those?
Thank you, Chairperson. I will start with slide 6. It said, why so many cases? As I have indicated in the problem statement, since the advent of democracy, people are setting their rights, and everybody is entitled to challenge any decision or any situation that he or she is not comfortable with, and the department will do the necessary to protect the interest of the department. Whether it's against or against officials or inmates, it is a combination. Some of cases emanate from inmates on inmates, somewhere is officials on inmates. The rapes, we have some rapes where the parolees have raped members of the community. We have cases where inmates inside the correctional centers are raping other inmates. So it's also a combination, various categories there as well. The medical conditions is correct. It includes both emotional, psychological, physical. We have some where the claimant has been amputated. According to him, he is alleging that because he did not receive adequate medical treatment whilst incarcerated, and as a result, he was amputated, and now he's holding the department liable for this. The number of motions in slide 9, 569, it is important to mention that they actually started or mushroomed from the Eastern Cape, from one attorney, and with time, other attorneys also joined and started issuing motions. Similarly, claiming the same prayers as the initial attorney started. For now, if I am subject to correction, could be about 4 or 5 groups of attorneys who are responsible for all these motions. They are, yes, assisted by attorneys. The mediation part of it, what we are doing, hence I'm saying we are consolidating these cases. The mediation part, we have not considered that. However, it's something that we can consider. It is not that it's a closed thing, but however, the inmates usually, they will say the matter is with the lawyers, but I'm not saying that it's going to be impossible. We will consider that process to mediate on this dispute. Slide 11. The questions, if I got it right, was it to say why the motions are on the slide? On the presentation. Yeah. Okay, the reason why we put motions is because it's also part of litigation. And also that we're dealing with legal costs, motions also attract legal costs. So it's important that the committee is advised about them as well. When it comes to poor quality in slide 11, this usually happens. It means that when we process these profiles in preparation for opposing these cases, we realize that some of the profiles are in such a manner that will not be acceptable in court, or we are not going to be able to defend those cases because the reports are of such a poor quality. Hence, the department is making all the efforts to make sure that these challenges are addressed by training members of the department to be able to produce quality reports. The delay in the release, I can give an example of where a matter has been referred for an appeal, and the appeal has been successful, meaning in favor of the inmate, but however, the judgment has not reached the department timeously, and by the time the department becomes aware, you find that the inmate has already been in prison for some time. So hence the delay in the release, and would lead to a claim for an unlawful detention. In slide 18, the question was what are the reasons for each of these items? As I have indicated in one of the mitigation, the proposal, as in slide number 19, dealing with the issue of absence of an automated integrated system, the proposed solution there is we have been engaging with the state attorney's office even prior to the coming in office of the Solicitor General for the development of integrated system, because it is the office of the state attorney that receives these invoices and they pay them and forward to DCS for reimbursement. It is during this process of reimbursement that we establish that some of the documents that will enable us to say this is a genuine, this is a correct claim, are not part of the documents. Hence, we end up returning those invoices. For an example, if you receive a bundle of invoices that you need to reimburse, only to find that there's legal cost that needs to be paid, but there is no court order that is attached directing the department that they are liable for those legal costs. So there's no way that we're going to reimburse, because there must be a source for reimbursement of those legal costs. Thank you, Chair. Unless if I missed anything.
Chairperson, if I could just ask the CDC Incarceration and Corrections if there's anything you want to add at this point. Otherwise, I'll cover at the end of the session, Chair. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. The response that has been provided by the acting DC Legal Services is informed by the inputs that we have given. But I just want to, as a matter of emphasis, indicate that we keep statistics of files that are going through the system. And for instance, as of the 17th of August 2021, we had 2,673 profile reports of lifers under the Van Wyk and Patha judgments that were submitted to the Nccs. What we then do before these files are submitted to the Nccs, we ensure that through our pre-release and resettlement directorate, we do a quality assurance to ensure that the necessary attachments that are supposed to be part of the files and also the reports are of required quality. Also the SAP 69 and SAP 62 forms and sentencing remarks, we make sure that those are in the files. The delays come from the files that we receive from the regions and our management areas where the quality is not of acceptable levels, and also the attachments that are supposed to be there, we don't find them. So we then return those back, and that has worked because the NCCS now sees and it does not refer back the files on the basis of incomplete information or unacceptable quality. The cases that are currently before legal services are cases that have been enrolled before the measures that we have put in place gained traction, and we have since taken back the profiles to correct them and make sure that they get resubmitted through the system. Inmates normally submit complaints through the head of corrections, and those complaints would have been processed by the heads of units where the inmates are housed. The head of corrections are also, in most instances, chairpersons of case management committees. That is where we provide them with the detail. But in as much as we do that, some offenders, through their legal representatives, submit inquiries to the department. We respond to those as we receive them. Others choose the legal route, and we work with legal services to ensure that we provide the necessary information for legal services to be able to represent the department accordingly. We ensure that on a monthly basis, our regions report on the backlogs, and as I've indicated, we ensure that we implement quality assurance processes. The cases that are before legal services, as one has indicated, are cases that offenders feel that they need to pursue them, in as much as we would have provided them with the information with regards to progress on those cases. We have also started a process of assessment of the administrative capacity of the Nccs. We have completed that process and submitted to the Office of the National Commissioner and Human Resources, as the acting DC Legal Services has indicated, on how we can make it a point that we provide more administrative capacity to the Nccs, including ensuring that even the colleagues that are in the incarceration and corrections branch that deal with these matters on a daily basis with more detail are also providing more time to help the Nccs. Those will be the inputs that one will add to the presentation and the answering of questions that has been provided by the acting DC Legal Services. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Thank you, National Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Can I now proceed to Honorable Horn?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have two questions. The first I formulated during the presentation, and the second is really a follow-up on some of the answers that have been given. The first question, Chair, and it relates to slide 13. Yes, we hear from the department, and of course it is so that people have become more litigious over the last years, but the reality is that even if we leave some room for the fact that some people will ultimately bring cases or make institute claims against the department, which is baseless, from slide 13, it would seem that as a matter of fact, that's not ordinarily the case. So I think the first question I want to answer is, what is ultimately the typical success rate in matters that is brought against the department by offenders? Let's leave for a moment the contractual disputes with officials and ex-officials. So what is the success rate of the department in defending these cases? Because if I look at slide 13, it would seem it is, in legal terms, a type of mea culpa from the department side. All sorts of delays, a lax attitude in dealing with the information and the processing of information, in dealing with the proper way as the law prescribes as to how the incarceration of inmates should be dealt with. So that's the first issue on a broad level. On a second level, however, I think for us to get to whether the amount spent on litigation is ultimately reasonable, and also still related to slide 13, I would like to hear how much of what is admitted to in slide 13 contributes to at least, I want to say, cost orders amid the litigation process against the department. Because if I look carefully at slide 13, it would seem that apart from admitting to the fact that many of these cases are brought by the way the department manages affairs, it would seem that also in the event of cases proceeding, there's delays caused by the fact that the department is not properly managing its affairs. So I would want to hear, even if it's not available today in writing, then a breakdown as to the type of cost orders the department has occurred in this financial year due to the fact that it's not readily in a position to proceed with matters. Then if I turn to I think it's slide 9 and the 569 motions, and then also listening to this last explanation about profiles and the NCCS, it is a big worry, Chair, with respect. I mean, ultimately, the best defense against these motions would be for a proper profile, the best profile possible, to be on record for every lifer. That in simple terms is the only way in which the department can protect itself against this type of litigation. So to hear that in respect of many of the 569 motions, it is then realized that the profile will not stand up in court is a very, very worrying answer. So once again, I would want a breakdown as to, in respect of this 569 motions, what has been an analysis should be given to us as to how many of these were the realization only after receiving the motion that yes, the profile we have on record is not going to stand up in court. And if that is the case, then I want an explanation as to how the department can then claim that it, through the handling of parole applications of these lifers, they have dealt with it properly. Because I hear the answer that also in respect of the taking these profiles to the Nccs, that the department reworks or updates the profiles. But the reality is, if it is realized only on the at the litigation stage that these are not good enough, then I want to suggest that the whole process in front of the parole structures of the department was, as it is from the beginning, deficient, and that should be a very worrying thing to us all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hall. Commissioner, can we get responses to the areas raised by Honorable Hall?
Thank you, Chair. As proposed, the first part of the question, we will provide a written submission because it talks about the success rate and whatever, which I don't have that information at the moment. But let me specifically deal with slide 9 about 569. Regarding the 569 motions. It is important that, as I said, we consolidate this matter. It is important to understand what we mean by parole consideration. Parole does not start at the end or in the middle. Parole consideration starts as an inmate enters the system. That's when we start doing the sentence plan, and which at the end of the day, it will eventualize in a profile at the end of the day. The consolidation that we do, we were able to establish that there are categories in all of these motions. There are those that are due but not considered. There are those that have been considered and given decisions, for example, even further profile. There are those that are in the process of being considered. So as such, it does not necessarily mean that we are not going to oppose because the profile is of a poor quality. This is what we establish as we are opposing. And this is what we bring into management to look into it. And as I have said, and the CDC has indicated that training is continuing to ensure that these profiles are improved, to ensure that we are able to oppose this matter successfully. Thank you.
Is that all, Commissioner?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll come back to you. Any follow-ups, honorable members, on the issues? Okay, none. Let me get back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Your input or final comments.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. I'm just going to touch on a range of matters that I think hasn't adequately been covered. Maybe on the first one, I'd want to indicate around the issue of escapes and security incidents, Chair. COVID has created a spike in those. Whilst the Malmesbury was the big escape, but I think with the issue of idleness and lockdown of offenders, we had been challenged in that area, and that's why we had developed a response to that, and I'll talk about it slightly later. On the issue of IT or technology modernization, I must indicate that we've developed a master plan for technology and IT, and I think it may be useful that be tabled to the committee, because I think it will show how these things dovetail into each other. So when we talk about IMS, we can see how it fits in, and the plan is basically a roadmap of 10 years with prioritization within that, Chairperson. The next point that I want to raise, and it relates to the issues that was raised around motion on slide, is it 13, Chair? I can indicate that as a department, we had realized that there was a challenge in how we were dealing with our case management system. And we had a workshop around this. We've developed a response plan. The CDC had spoken to that. But further to that, we have agreement with the South African Police Service going forward to assist us in the profiles, that they will provide what they call SAP 62 and SAP 69 forms. And these forms basically talk about the nature of the crimes that the offender has committed, as well as previous offenses committed. And for us to develop a proper and appropriate sentence plan, this becomes critical. So from the 1st of November, we are indicating to the South African Police Service that we won't accept an offender without those forms, so that we are able to have the appropriate plans. I think further to that, Chairperson, it's important to indicate that we have revised our standard operating procedures, which is our B order, to ensure that the officials comply to the actual procedures that must be committed. So this is to ensure that we don't have poor quality nor poor delay in terms of delays in processing. I can indicate, consistent to that, we've developed a handbook for heads of centers as well as for area commissioners. And this is to ensure that basic supervision at the center level is adhered to, and regional management as well as area commissioners can ensure that there's compliance. So the issue of non-compliance is now a matter of the past. We've got our Chief Operations Commissioner that's in the process of assessing implementation of this. We've also adopted the approach, Chair, that where there's non-compliance, we are not just holding officials accountable, we are holding supervisors accountable. So in some of the cases where we've seen non-compliance, consequent management is put in place, and management is feeling the force of non-compliance. I thought it was important that I add that, Chairperson, just to show that while we identify our legacy problems, we are in the process of creating correction to ensure that we are not vulnerable from a litigation perspective. So that is the input that I just thought I wanted to add at this point. But we appreciate the questions, and we will build on the advice and guidance that we are receiving from the honorable members and yourself, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, I don't have much to add to what the National Commissioner has already stated, especially when he makes the point that we are dealing with legacy issues, imperfections of the past, immediate past in the department, but we are moving forward. The Portfolio Committee has never failed to ask about consequence management to address lapses in our performance as a department. And we are moving forward with regard to ensuring that there is indeed consequence management. For instance, when I was getting a briefing from the department, I did point out that it's necessary that whoever would be responsible for us losing in court as a result of their negligence, something must be done about that particular individual. Of course, we are aware that certain transgressions are not deliberate. Maybe they're due to a number of factors, like some people might be tired because of the shift system that is not quite in place to accommodate everybody's concerns, and all other kinds of human frailties. But where there is definite negligence on the part of our members, we are making sure that something happens. We are concerned ourselves as the ministry about the high litigation, the high number of cases that we are involved in. But as Ms. Kekana did indicate, everybody in South Africa is easily says, I'll see you in court. And our inmates are also not excluded from that category of people. People want their rights and they want them now, sometimes mistakenly, but others genuinely. So we take in mind what the Portfolio Committee is saying, all the concerns that we are raising, they are our concerns as well. The question of us not being able to fill vacancies or to meet the targets in terms of employment equity is a concern to us as well, that the law requires that a certain number of posts must be filled by persons with disabilities. And when you are unable to fill them, we worry as the ministry and of course as a department. But as I say, we take into account all of the advices that you've given us, the reprimand and everything else, because it does assist us in improving in the work that we do. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. I think with that, we want to thank you for the explanations, but I think we are expecting more responses. I think it's well and good to dealing with this issue of the legal cost and litigation, to be dealing with some of the external issues that are not in your control. But as Honorable Horn has pointed out, slide 13 points to contributing factors that you should be in control of. And that's very serious for you to attend, because if those are not sorted, we will continue having this high bill on litigation costs. Even on slide 13, though it's not your problem, when it comes to these challenges of invoices that are received from DOJ for this reimbursement, you listing no supporting documents in terms of these instruction letters and court order, incomplete information in the invoices. These are basic things that we should never speak about even in the presentation. But we have noted the issues that you need to follow up, and I'm sure the committee secretariat will attend to that. You should leave here knowing we need to have those so that the turnaround time should not go beyond 10 days to get those. Otherwise, that's think all what we had today. We don't have any other presentation. So the time now is 3:45. I think that's where we should adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance. It's been a long Friday for the members who started in the house and came over here. So thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.